Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video is about the December releases that I'm really excited about. You know, usually December is a pretty slow month in terms of publishing, and that's kind of true here. I don't have a ton of books to talk to you about today, and I think with like supply chain issues, some publication dates have been moved back. So I have a total of, I think, 19 books on my list, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. I think I'll talk about just 10 of them today that I'm most excited about, and then, like, you know, I've been doing, I'll leave the other books that I'm considering listed in the description below, so you can check those out as well. So we'll go ahead and jump in and leave a book emoji in the comments to let me know that you're here. So we'll begin with the books that come out December 7th. The first one I'll talk about is A History of Wild Places by Shea Ernshaw. So this is adult thriller with some supernatural things. I actually just read an arc of this and really enjoyed it, so you'll have that to look forward to in my next weekly wrap-up. But basically the premise here is that we have Travis, who has an unusual talent for finding missing people. He's hired by families as a last resort, and he basically just needs one object to find the person who's vanished. So he takes on this case of Maggie St. James, who's a well-known author of like pretty dark children's books, and he's led to a place that many believe to only be a legend, and this is called Pastoral. So this is a reclusive community that was founded in the 70s by like-minded people searching for a simpler way of life. Basically, everybody thinks that the commune shouldn't exist anymore, and soon after Travis stumbles upon it, he disappears, just like Maggie St. James. So then years later, we have Theo, who's a lifelong member of Pastoral, discovers Travis's abandoned truck beyond the border of the community. No one's allowed in or out, not when there's a risk of bringing a disease back into Pastoral. So basically, Theo, his wife, and his wife's sister are keeping secrets from each other and unraveling the mystery of what happened. You know, these secrets kind of come to light. And basically, it's like, you know, their perfect isolated world maybe isn't as safe as they believed, and that darkness takes many forms. So I really liked this. I thought it was very fast-paced, and there's a lot of, like, when you're reading it, you're just like, what is happening right now? So I had a really fun time kind of formulating some guesses that some of them did turn out to be right, so I was, like, very pleased with myself. But I thought this was quite enjoyable. That's all I'll say about it, because I don't want to spoil things, but you'll have my review to look forward to as well. And this is definitely one, if you're looking for that faster-paced fun thriller with the hint of the supernatural, like, I would definitely suggest picking this one up. The next book I'll talk about that comes out December 7th is Hijinks by Kelley Armstrong. So this is the second book in the Cursed Luck series, which is adult urban fantasy. And here we have our cursed weaver Kennedy, who has resettled into her hometown and opened a shop selling previously hexed antiques. When she fails to win an online auction for a notorious cursed painting, Aidan Connolly, the wealthy and swoon-worthy luck worker she's not dating, swoops in to buy it for her. So apparently, the Crying Girl is one of a quartet of haunted legendary paintings. Kennedy knows that the ghosts are actually curses, fatal ones. The paintings have been missing for years, and Kennedy is thrilled at the chance to uncurse one until Crying Girl disappears before they can actually collect it. So they soon discover that the painting has been randomly whisked out of their reach. Someone used it to lure them in, and now that they snatched the bait, they've been snared into a trap. Either the thief gets what they want, or the four paintings are going to find their way back into the world, and Kennedy and Aidan will be responsible for the deadly chaos the cursed portraits wreak. So I'm definitely going to be getting this one. I read the first one, I think that was earlier this year, and enjoyed it. I'm not surprised. You know, Kelley Armstrong's one of my favorite authors, so I'll definitely be buying, you know, whatever she writes. But this was a really fun urban fantasy. I liked the different curse magic and like luck magic. That was really interesting. And we had, you know, our siblings in this family have slightly different talents, I guess, and like skills with their curse magic. So I liked, you know, the romance, and there was like something that happened that I don't want to spoil for the first book, but it was like a direction that the book went that I thought was really fascinating and that I really liked. So I'm excited to see what happens here. I liked that we have cursed paintings. That seems really interesting, and I'm really curious, like, who the thief is and who's setting them up, I suppose. So I'll definitely be getting this one and recommend the series as a whole. The next book that comes out December 7th is The Liar's Knot by M.A. Carrick. So this is the second book in the Rook and Rose series. I read the first one again earlier this year, loved it. I've actually pre-ordered this one, so I can't wait to get it. And things have happened in the last book, and one of our houses has kind of been taken down, but darkness still weaves through the city's filthy alleys and jewel-bright gardens seen by those who know where to look. We have Vargo, who has always known where to look. He sacrificed more than anyone imagines to carve himself a position of power and influence among the nobility, hiding a will of steel behind a velvet smile. He'll be damned if he lets anyone threaten what he's built. Then we have Gray, who's the captain of the guard, essentially, and he knows all too well, bent under the yoke of too many burdens, he fights to protect the city's most vulnerable. Sooner or later, that fight will demand more than he can give. And then we have Rin, who's a daughter of no clan, knows best of all. Caught in a knot of lies, torn between her heritage and her aristocratic masquerade, she relies on her gift for reading pattern to survive. And it shows her the web of darkness that traps her city. But all three have yet to discover just how far that web stretches, and in the end, it will take more than wits and knives to cut themselves free. So I can't wait to see what happens next. Like, I thought the first book was just so much fun. With the first book, there were a lot of really interesting characters, and there were a lot of things going on that worked really well together, I thought, and it's just super exciting to see how, there's plots, schemes, like, mysteries to be solved, so I had a really great time with that one. I definitely want to see what happens here. I think we'll get more, like, political intrigue, and I just, hopefully, we get more of the cool magic stuff. I'm just so excited for this. And it seems like we are going to be focusing more on Fargo, who is a rather interesting character, so oh my goodness, can't wait for this one. Definitely recommend this series as well. The next book that comes out December 7th is Risen by Benedict Jacka. So this is the last book of the Alex Verus series. Now, I'll admit that I have not caught up on the series completely, but I've really enjoyed what I've read so far. So this is adult urban fantasy. So Alex is a diviner and can kind of like see probabilities and like predict the future that way. So it's been really fun so far. I think there's some really exciting magic and everything. So basically, Alex has one final battle before him, and we have his lover who's fallen completely under the control of a deadly creature she made a bargain with, and it's preparing to create an army of mages subject to his every whim. So basically, Alex, the council, and other people have agreed to call a truce in their war, and plans are made for a joint attack, but Alex knows that it's a matter of time before, like, his allies turn on each other, and neither of them really care about keeping his lover alive, so Alex is trying to find a way to stop his lover and free her from possession before time runs out. So I'll definitely be getting this one. Like I said, I do need to catch up on the series, but it's been so great. Like, I think if you like the Dresden Files, you'll also really like this. They give me very similar vibes. But, both are great in their own ways. And yeah, like I said, there's some great magic. I really like the characters. It's some interesting dynamics. I definitely recommend this series again, and I will be getting this one for sure. The next book that comes out December 7th is No Beauties or Monsters by Goedjen. So this is YA mystery or horror, I think. I'm not quite sure. So Riley apparently has not been back to the military base in 29 Palms since her father died. She left a lot of memories out there, buried in the sand of the Mojave Desert, memories about her dad, her old friends Nathan and Lily, and most of all, her enigmatic grandfather, a man who cut ties with Riley's family before he passed away. But her mom's new work assignment has sent their family to 29 Palms again, and now Riley's in the one place she never wanted to return to. At least her old friends are happy to welcome her home, well, some of them anyway. It turns out Lily is gone, vanished into the desert, and to make matters worse, there's whispers around town of a mysterious killer on the loose. But it isn't just 29 Palms that feels frightening. There's something wrong with Riley, too. She's seeing things she can't explain, visions of monstrous creatures that stalk the night. Somehow, it all seems to be tied to her grandfather and the family cabin he left behind. Riley wants the truth, but she doesn't know if she can trust herself. Are the monsters in her head really out there, or could it be that the deadliest thing in the desert is Riley herself? So this seems really interesting to me. I like that it takes place in a desert. Like, yeah, that's just a setting that I find really exciting, I guess. But it mentions that it's perfect for fans of Stranger Things and Veronica Mars, which seems really interesting. So, like, hopefully we do have some actual creatures that she's seeing. Like, I think that would be really interesting, but also just like a fun mystery. It seems like, trying to find her missing friend and just what is happening here and what has her grandfather left behind. So I think this sounds pretty exciting. I haven't read anything about this author before, but I'm very intrigued by this one, and I feel like it's something that I'll enjoy. The next book that comes out December 7th is Absynthe by Brendan P. Bellecourt. So this is actually a pen name for Bradley P. Beaulieu, and he's the author of the Song of the Shattered Sands series, which I really love. So this is an adult sci-fi book, though, and basically we have Liam, who's a reclusive, shell-shocked veteran who remembers little of the Great War. 10 years later, I guess this takes place in like an alternate 1920s setting, just by the way. So 10 years later, when Liam is caught in a brutal attack on a Chicago speakeasy, he's saved by Grace, an alluring heiress who's able to cast illusions. Though the attack appears to have been committed by the hated uprising, Grace believes it was orchestrated by Leland, who's Liam's former commander and the current president of the United States. So my. So meeting Grace unearths long-buried memories. Liam's former squad, the Devil's Henchmen, was given a serum to allow telepathic communication, transforming them into a unified killing machine. With Grace's help, Liam begins to recover his abilities, but when, I guess, this former commander learns of it, he orders his militia to eliminate Liam at any cost. But his abilities are expanded quickly. When Liam turns the tables and digs deeper into this commander's plans, he discovers a terrible secret. The same experiment that granted his abilities was bent towards darker purposes. He must navigate both his enemies and supposed allies to stop the president's nefarious plans before they're unleashed on the world. And Grace is hiding secrets of her own, secrets that could prove every bit as dangerous as the president's. So I think this sounds really exciting. I, again, like I said, have really loved the Song of the Shattered Sands series, so I'm confident that I would also enjoy, you know, this book because it's the same author. So I really like his writing, and he's built like a really fabulous fantasy world, so I'm like super curious to see how he does with sci-fi. I think this seems really interesting. I like, you know, having an alternate history setting, that seems fun, but like telepathic abilities and experimentations, and I'm really curious what other darker purposes have been going on here with these experiments. But that seems really exciting, and I like that Grace has the ability to cast illusions, and I'm very curious what her secrets are, so this is definitely one that I want to get for sure. Okay, so apparently we just skip right over to December 28th. Apparently there's not a ton in between there, but the first book I'll talk about here is The Untold Story by Genevieve Cogman. This is adult urban fantasy, and this is the latest book in the Invisible Library series, which you can see them behind me. I've really loved this series so far, so this is one that I'll definitely be getting. But basically here we have Irene, who's trying to learn the truth about Albrecht, and basically he's like a longtime enemy, and there have been some things revealed about him, but the library orders her to kill him, and then I guess Albrecht himself offers to sign a truce, so she has to discover why he originally betrayed the library. With her allies endangered and her strongest loyalties under threat, she'll have to trace his past across multiple worlds and into the depths of mythology and folklore to find the truth at the heart of the library and why the library was first created. So like I said, I'll definitely be getting this. I love this series. It's just so fantastic. I like that we have, basically the premise is like there's the Invisible Library, and it collects unique written works from various alternate worlds, and that helps like stabilize the world, but also like, you know, you collect unique written works that exist on some worlds but not others, and I think that's just a really interesting premise in general. But we have fae and dragons, and that's really exciting as well, and I love our main character Irene. I think she is just so intelligent, and like I've just had a blast following her. So here it seems like we're definitely going to get some answers to some things, and I'm very intrigued by the fact that it mentions like mythology and folklore. I'm just super curious, like what will that involve? What has Albrecht been up to? And I want to know more about the library itself. So I really recommend this series. It's been super great so far, and I can't wait to see what happens in this one. The next book that comes out December 28th is The Midnight Girls by Alicia Jasinska. So this is YA fantasy, and it seems like it's perfect for the winter. So I think this is, like, I don't know if this is based on Polish folklore and stuff, or, like, if it actually does take place in, like, an alternate Poland. I don't know. But basically we have this season that's a time of mischief and revelry. For the next few weeks, all will be wintry balls, glittery disguises, and nightly torchlit sleigh parties. Unbeknownst to the merrymakers, two uninvited girls join the fun. Zosia and Marinka are drawn to each other the moment they meet, until they discover their rivals, who both have their sights set on the prince's heart. If one consumes a pure heart, she'll gain immeasurable power. Marinka plans to bring the princess back to her patron in order to prove herself, while Zosia is determined to take his heart and his power for her own. Their ambition turns into a magical contest, with both girls vying to keep the prince out of the other's grasp, even as their attraction to one another grows. But their attempts on his life draws the attention of the city that would die for him, and suddenly their escalating rivalry might cost them not just their love for each other, but both their lives. So this seems really interesting, and it does seem like we have an enemies to lovers romance. I like that it's very, like, wintry, especially, you know, I mean, it specifically mentions wintry balls, you know, these sleigh parties, like, that sounds super fun to me, and it feels like that would be just perfect to read in the winter. I'm intrigued by the fact that we're trying to consume hearts. That sounds very dark and like a fun witchy type book. We've got LGBTQ plus characters, so this is one that I think I would enjoy, especially during the winter, so I'm curious to check it out. The next book that comes out December 28th is Evershore. This is by Brandon Sanderson and Janci Patterson. So this is YA sci-fi. This is the final of the 3 Skyward novellas, which I have not read yet completely, so I need to catch up here. But basically each of these novellas have been told from a different perspective of team members, and it's kind of tied in with the release of Cytonic. We're following Georgian. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these names right, but he must work together with the alien Alanik to pick up the pieces of the government, falling into disarray. So they intercept a strange transmission from the planet Evershore, and it's Kitson inhabitants who say they have some of Jorgen's people and want to return them, but can they be trusted? And can Jorgen learn to master his increasingly erratic Cytonic powers before they spiral out of control and destroy all hope of reforming an alliance against the superiority? So like I said, I do need to catch up, so I have no clue what has happened. Yes, I have not read Cytonic yet either, but I do own it, so lots of reading to do. But this is definitely something I'll get. I have the previous two already, just need to actually read it. So, I mean, I love the Skyward series. I think it's a really fun YA sci-fi. I like our characters. There's a lot of really snarky, sarcastic people, and it's just fabulous. So this is one I'll also be getting, like I said. So the last book I'll talk about today comes out December 28th, and that's The Sorority Murder by Allison Brennan. So this is adult thriller, and I believe I heard Amber from Books of Amber talk about it. I'm pretty sure she enjoyed it. So I have, pretty high hopes for this. But basically, this deals with murder and the true crime podcast. So we have Lucas, who's obsessed with the death of Candace, who left a sorority party one night and never came back. Her body was found after 2 weeks, but the case has grown cold. 3 years later, while interning at the medical examiners, Lucas discovers new information, but the police are not interested. He knows he has several critical pieces of the puzzle. He just isn't sure how they fit together, so he creates a podcast to revisit Candace's last hours. Then he encourages listeners to crowdsource what they remember and invites guest lecturer Reagan, a former U.S. Marshal, to come on and share her expertise. New tips come in that convince them that they're onto something. Then shockingly, one of the podcast colors turns up dead. Another hints at Candace's secret life, a much darker picture than Lucas imagined, and one that implicates other sorority sisters. This U.S. Marshal uses her own resources to bolster their theory and learns that Lucas is hiding his own secret. The pressure is on to solve the murder, but first Lucas must come clean about his real motives in pursuing this podcast before the killer silences him forever. So this seems really exciting. I like that we have this true crime podcast. That's something that generally works well for me. I'm just very curious about what all these secrets are that people are keeping, who actually killed Candace, and yeah, I think that this would just be a really fun thriller, and it's something, like I said, Amber read it. I think Nikki from Books and Lemon Squash may have also read it, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I think this sounds like a really fun thriller, and it's one that I definitely want to check out. So with that, those are all the books that I have to talk to you about today. Let me know in the comments if you think you might pick up any of these books. And for your question of the day, what book that comes out this month are you most excited about? So I do have a Discord channel, and if you want to join that, the link's in the description below. I hope you're all having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.